Merry Christmas, everybody. I had to drop a video recently where I basically just jammed. I had the urge and I went with it, and I just jammed for like 30 minutes on guitar. Then I just jammed on the vocals and just put the two together. The point of the video, to keep all the mistakes in, I feel like is a good thing that people can practice, because it's not easy to show all our flaws. It's a very tough thing to do, to hit publish on a video that shows you making mistakes. That's why it's so important. In my opinion, I felt better from posting that video than I felt from posting so many of the other videos I've posted throughout the year, and the year, a little over a year and a couple weeks that I've been posting videos. In general, I felt so much better about this one because it was hard for me to hit publish. You should find the things that are hard for you to hit publish on. The stuff that makes you scared or nervous. You don't want to show this. You're not sure if it'll go well. Look for that stuff in your life that you're not posting, that you're not doing, and then do it. Whether it's making videos or just doing it, facing it in life, do that stuff. The reward is undeniable. It far outweighs any of the negative sides that you may be feeling about considering why you shouldn't do it. The more we mentally just beat up ourselves about basically going through all the possibilities of why it's a bad idea, it's basically like playing with yourself mentally. As soon as you stop doing that and just put the stuff out, man, really helps. Really helps. Makes you feel good that you did it, regardless of how it's received. Now, on this particular video, it didn't get a ton of views, but the people that did watch it, I'm very thankful for you guys. And you basically said so many nice things about, wow, this took a lot of balls. It took cojones. The courage to do this is great. The freedom to do, I love this. That makes me feel really good. And I guess the point is, some people, if you do post something like that and you don't get that, don't worry. Look at it like the sample size isn't big enough. In other words, if 1 million people saw it, how many would like it and how many wouldn't? If you're dealing with a subject matter, like a sample size of 50, 100, 200, it's not even enough people to really tell you how many people might like it. So no matter how you look at it, it's like you have to look at that, if it goes well, as great. But if it doesn't go well, don't let it hurt you. Don't let it beat you down. Just do it again. Just pretend people did like it. Doesn't even matter, okay? I do want to say, though, there's a funny comment that was dropped on there that I have to talk about because it was hilarious. Somebody dropped a comment that said, and I don't want to say their name, but this person's commented very positively on my stuff many times. So I remember the name. This is what they wrote. The title of the video was like raw, uncut, no auto-tune, no click, leave the mistakes in kind of thing. And it was because I was jamming for 30 minutes and, that was a good title for me. So when I wrote, this is the comment that this guy wrote. Ready? I haven't watched the video yet. I'm literally just responding to the title. But why not just be creative through auto-tune? ? The problem is that people do use auto-tune to do the work for them instead of using it like a guitar pedal. It's an effect. It sounds subjectively cool, and you can evoke emotive performances with it if you're skilled enough, like anything else. Somebody replied to that comment writing, no. Very poignantly stated, no. I actually agree with the no on this, and it's because it's based on what it was written to. Like the comment about haven't watched the video yet, I'm literally just responding to the title. That comment, right? The video that you didn't watch was 30 minutes of key changes on the guitar. Like it's not the same key the entire time. It moves around. The speed moves around, but mainly because the key moves around, you can't possibly set auto-tune to a key. In addition to which, because it's like just randomly off the top of my head kind of stuff, I don't like putting auto-tune set to chromatic ever. I don't like that at all. To me, that's like the movie I, Robot. I don't like the robots controlling my life. I don't want that. I don't like the robots deciding when my swoop in or out of a note, my bend up to it or not vocally is good or not, and then it should be fixed or not. I really don't like that. Some people might like it. It might help their performances, but there's some people that absolutely sound worse when they use auto-tune. And it's not, I wouldn't call it, a thing that they're just not using the effect right. It's more like their voice just doesn't work with it. Like Mick Jagger, for example, wouldn't sound like Mick Jagger if you auto-tuned his voice. So if you have a character style voice, it doesn't work with auto-tune most of the time. I mean, you might need to tune a note here or there, which would totally be going against the point of a video that's about from the hip. This is the realness of 100%. There is no editing being done to this at all. How are you going to do that and also edit it? You know what this reminds me of? It's like, how come your grandmother no have a wheels? Because if my grandmother had a wheels, she would have been a bike. You get what I'm saying? In other words, it's got nothing to do with the recipe. It's not the mac and cheese. You understand what I'm saying? Let her be a grandma. She's not a bike. And because she's not a bike, you try to make her into a bike. I don't understand. It's just ridiculous to me. A comment like that is so funny. And it is funny to me that they didn't change it or edit it after they watched it. They probably never watched the video, or if they did, they still felt this was important to say. Thou doth protest too much. You protest too much. It seems like you really, I don't know if, I don't know. Maybe you're the designer. Maybe you created auto-tune. Maybe it's your baby. I don't know. But either way, there's a time and place for it. It's not always. It's not all the time. The same reason you could say, why you not record to a click? Where's the click? I'm using time as another dynamic. I'm speeding up. I'm slowing down. I'm using it as a tool to build on what's going on, to increase the amount of excitement when I speed up, and then when I slow down to change the flow. I mean, it's something bands have been doing forever. I find it interesting sometimes how people think everything always needs to fall into whatever category is in their head. Let people do what they're going to do. It's so funny to me. Another comment on a different video I have to address, okay, is so a video I made a little while back, I had to clear something up. Okay, so a video I made a little while back is called analog summing versus in the box summing. That was the title of the video. It was can you hear the difference? So if you look up that video on my channel, you'll see that. Now, I made this video, and then I got a couple comments like this. At first, I just brushed them off because, again, I read everybody's comments. I absolutely do. But, I didn't realize I made this mistake at first. Once I realized it, then I started replying to the comments saying, I know what happened. But in the beginning, I didn't. And a couple of people commented, something sounds out of phase on the summed version, the summing mixered version, the one where you're sending a bunch of stuff through the summing. Something sounds out of phase on it. And I was like, nope, doesn't, nope, doesn't, no, doesn't. And the reason I'm so conditioned to even do that is because, man, people cry about phase more than anything else ever. Phase is so widely cried about. It's the biggest thing that people are afraid of, and they shouldn't be. So when I hear people talk about phase, it's not a new thing. Phase this, phase that, phase the other. It's man, phase this, all right? Phase this. But they were right in this case. So I do want to address the fact that they were correct. Anybody who mentioned phase on that video prior to me making this one, I just want to validate you. You were correct. And the reason the phase was bugging is because when you sum, you must not do something I did, okay? On the DA, in other words, digital to analog conversion is a part of what summing is. You record something, it's in the computer, then to sum, you must send it out of your computer into your summing mixer. The way it gets there is through digital to analog conversion, D to A. Now, what I'm about to describe is a non-issue if you have a converter that has 64 outs or something, or 32 outs, and that's your converters that you're using to send things places into like a summing mixer or into a console or something, right? If you're doing that, this is a non-issue. I like to use converters as flavors. It's always been something I've done. I've noticed there's huge differences in conversion. That's why I've kept these 16 Apogee converters, the AD16X and the DA16X. I've kept both of those units for a long time because they have a sound. Now, I also have Burl converters, which have a sound. I have the Latte converters, which have a sound. I have the Dangerous AD+, which has a sound. Okay, these things all have sounds. Now, what I wound up doing, which you should never do, and this was an accident, I wound up sending the drums out through the Burl converters, and I didn't catch that some of the drums were being sent out through the Apogee converters also. Now, even though the converters were on the same clock, there's something going on with the sync. They weren't synced up. And because of that, the phase was bugging. Now, maybe it has nothing to do with the clocks in the sync, and it's just the fact that when you send things out of different converters, the same source thing. In other words, drums, you send out the Burl, and also the same drums you send out the Apogee, which is what happened. It caused a phase issue. And it did make it sound like things were coming through a straw in the drum department. I didn't catch the Apogee was actually grabbing a bunch of drums and sending those out. And, you know, I thought it said like Burl 3-4, it said A3-4 and instead of B, like, you know what I'm saying? So instead of Burl 3-4, it said A3-4, and A3-4 is my Apogees. I didn't catch that. And it was sending a bunch of drums through the Apogees. Everything wound up doing a weird thing because the converters, the way they work was basically working against itself. It's like the Apogees were fighting the Burl, and as a result, it caused some phase cancellation, which made things sound like they were coming through a straw a little bit. So, happens. We all make mistakes. I think it's important for me to just acknowledge this, that I made that mistake, and basically made it really hard to judge on that video anything. So, that said, you know, I may wind up doing something like that again. But for me, I have to say, it's like, if you watch my recent videos and stuff, since I got the Latte, I've been like actively trying to mix and be happy in the box only. When I say in the box only, I'm still using my summing mixer for the monitor controller part so that I can have my subwoofer, my NS10s, my Barefoot 01s, all able to flip back and forth. And also, you know, having that in my summing, like the reason I'm like, my summing mixer does more than just summing. It also is a monitor controller. It also has transport controls. You know, it has talkback. I have a studio that sometimes has people in it that I got to use the talkback. I got to use the transport. I got to use the monitor controller all the time. The headphone amp on this thing is pristine. So the point is, I use so many things with this thing. I'm just not using the summing at the moment. Does the summing still sound great? Yeah, it does. But would I say it's better than the in the box? No. What I would say is that I wasn't doing what I needed to do in the box in order to be happy without using the 5060 and without using the Neve MVP, without using the SSL Fusion, without using the 1176 on snare, like without using things that I would typically use to make the stuff sound good. Instead, I was basically, like, what I'm doing now is learning how to make myself happy by removing things one at a time. And this is a method I think you should try if you're trying the same thing, to get away from analog. Because I've always told you, like, my goal is to be able to go to another studio and mix a track without all this stuff, ideally, and be happy with it, or do it on the road, or do it, like, that's my goal, right? So as a result, the first thing I thought, the biggest problem is needing all these outs to go into a summing mixer. That's the biggest first problem. So I got rid of that. So now I'm just sending everything through one channel so I can get into the same summing mixer and use some of those features that I was telling you about in the summing mixer, just non-related to summing, right? So one channel in there. Now, I bypass the Neve MVP. I bypass the SSL Fusion. Those things are on bypass lately. And I'm trying to make, and I literally did one at a time when I'm practicing so that I could take out the MVP. And now can I get the same kind of result without it in the box? Same thing with the Fusion now. So right now, all I'm doing is going out through the latte, in through this, through the summing mixer one channel, and then back in through the latte's AD. Eventually, soon, I'm going to remove the 5060 completely, but I need to get, basically then at that point, I'm just using the latte to monitor through. Like, it's just my monitor, it's the DA that's feeding the speakers at that point, right? But really all I'm getting from the summing mixer right now is the silk that I use on it, like in terms of what the summing part is offering me, the silk. And, I am hitting it as hard as I can hit it. I mean, I am doing that. So it's still giving me something, but way, way, way less than I used to use. I'm what I would call on the way, because that's my goal. My goal to not use it means I got to do steps to get there. This was the thing that made the most sense to me. First, eliminate summing, then eliminate each of the pieces one at a time and see if I can still make myself happy with it. Everybody's ears are different. I would say that some of us that have used the analog gear, we know it makes everything the most efficient to get to the end goal. That's why we've used it. That's why we like it, because it's the most efficient way to get to the end goal. Can you get there all in the box? Absolutely you can. But it becomes a game of how do I get there without running into the problems that occur when you mix in digital, which don't happen as easily in the analog world. It's just a different thing. I've said it before, there's like more forgiveness is really what it is. There's more forgiveness in the analog domain. So it's easier to get where you're trying to go, in my opinion. But you can absolutely do it in the box. You just need to, and this is what I did through these Black Friday and Christmas sales, all this stuff. What I did was basically pick things to try on the trial periods to try to get what I was missing. And I was only able to do that when I did it like piecemeal, one thing at a time kind of thing. Like I wound up buying all the SSL Fusion plugins because to me, that was like the most efficient way to replicate what the SSL Fusion is doing. Is it exactly the same? No, but it was a quickest way to sort of get back in the ballpark of what I was very familiar using for so long. So it got me there. And then, some other things I wound up buying, the Unfair Child, so helpful. So like I'll demo some of this stuff for you, show you kind of like how I'm mixing lately and my, my whole signal flow and my chain and everything. We'll get into that in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Again, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody with these responses to comments and stuff, but it's funny to me, some of the comments. So I have to, every once in a while I'm going to do that. But also the really good comments, I'm going to do a video recently about the best comment I've received yet, like ever, in terms of, it's not like a compliment, it's just the information in it was so good, I have to share it. So stay tuned. That could be you, I don't know, but Merry Christmas, everybody. Hit the like if you dug it, if you want to. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. I'll talk to you guys soon. Evan Jaffe Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.